This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time to talk life with Alicia. And last month we didn't talk life because I think the two of us were experiencing life, Alicia. Um, I was going through some changes, and you might notice that I'm now wearing reading glasses because I can see really well across the room, but up up close, it's a little bit blurry. So for my computer, I am wearing my glasses. And um, when we had to cancel your show last month, or as I like to say, postpone your show last
Yeah,
month.
we didn't cancel it. We
We
postponed
just
it.
postponed it. Um, I really got down on myself because I don't like doing that to my podcaster. And I don't like doing that to our listeners because I think we share a message that they all want to hear. And in some ways, I took myself down a little bit too far and got depressed about it. But at the same time that I was depressed, I realized um, it made me a better person because it gave me that down time to really like stop and shake myself up and like get out of it. And I realized it wasn't so much about postponing your show as I thought it was. It was more about other things that were happening around me. And I was just cluttered. Um, and at the same time, I started reading this book, and I hope everybody can see it. And, um, one of these days I'm going to be holding up your book, Alicia. Um, but
Yes.
it's called From There to Here, and it's by Reverend Rachel Hollander. And she happens to be a Cleveland lady. And she writes about her journey through depression. And there are many of us who don't share when we're depressed, but people could sort of see that something's going on. And so I thought this would be a great time for you and I to talk about how you look at it clinically. But then again, you're a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. And there probably are times that you have to take that clinical side and put it away, even though that may be difficult. Um, and in podcasting, I get a lot of people who share their stories with me and they talk about those bouts of depression. And I'm not here to give them advice, but just to share our journeys. So let's start with this scenario. I come to your office, make an appointment because my I'm feeling blue, so to speak. My family keeps asking me why I'm depressed. I don't want to admit that I'm depressed because that means like I might have a mental disorder and oh, that would be terrible. Um, so I come into your office and um, I say to you, so tell me, why am I depressed? What do you say? Now, what do you say?
So first off, I don't think anyone's ever come into my office and said so.
Oh, I have.
Oh yeah. So okay. So this is a first for me. um, what's been going on? Tell me what's going on in your life. And that's literally the journey. But I do want to back up because you like to just jump. I mean, I know we haven't, it's like 6 weeks. Like we haven't seen each other in 6 weeks, and it's like, bring some Vaseline. Come on, let's move into this a little bit. It's funny because it does go in with the theme of this. When all of this was going on 6 weeks ago. Okay, so for people who follow me, we all know that my life is literally like like I hop from one thing to another, and I don't breathe. And I remember the email, and I remember I was sad. I remember that part of it, because we were talking about human sexuality and we were going to continue. Like we always had, you and I have this agenda,
right.
And it never, you know, we have an agenda, and the world goes, yeah, not today.
Yeah.
Which is the story of my life. And I was sad because I was looking forward to it, because this is like my thing, my break from reality, which is hysterical to me on so many levels. But last week we were supposed to do the podcast, and I was trying to figure out how to be a good friend, mourn the death of a huge person who's a part of my life and my family's life, do not disappoint you. And I literally, and I remember staring at the screen and I'm crying, and I'm not crying over the death of my friend. I'm crying over, I have to write this email and to you know, my Auntie Kiki, who I'm going to disappoint. I don't have it all together. And which is hysterical to me on so many levels, because I don't like, I'm probably one of the most flexible people, like, oh, okay, like, yeah, but it was profound sadness. And so I want to distinguish that. So here's my segue. Haha, ADHD is working for me today. There is different stages of depression, and appropriate depression versus inappropriate depression, clinical depression. And oh, right, you have a reason to be sad. And our society doesn't allow for that. So when someone comes into my office and they go, I'm depressed, okay, well, I want to know, it's a human condition, it's an emotion. I want to make sure that it's pop culture loves to take psychological terms and just throw them out there and then pathologicalize, there we go, them. And so, you know, oh, you're not your cheerful self. Well, no, I've got a lot of, shit going on.
Right.
I was going to say stuff, but yeah, this is not PG. So, I mean, is it appropriate? You run around with like a chicken with your head cut off, all like contained in one little area. And, you're managing a bunch of schedules, a bunch of things, and you're having a little eye surgery. You're exhausted, and you want to relax. Shame on you. But I think too, there's the program piece to it, how we have interpreted it, and then the compassion piece to it. So there's so many underlying issues. And then I think too, I posted something on Facebook and you get, I should have done this. And I was like, I literally rolled my eyes and I was like, so not directed to you, but okay. I was like, wow.
Well, I didn't think it was directed at me, but it was like, wow, this is how I feel right now. So yeah.
So I was just like, okay, maybe I should send her a bottle of wine. Like maybe you should get drunk through this. But in all seriousness, and so yeah, when as a clinician, having somebody come in and be depressed, it's really not about depression. Matter of fact, I cringe when people say, well, I'm here because my PCP says I'm depressed. Okay, what's going on? And then I hear their story and I hear what's going on in their life. And usually depression is the least of what the issues are. And then a lot of them will say, I'd be depressed too.
And it's funny, because you said that nobody's ever walked into your office and done this, but when my personal physician determined after 2 visits in 24 hours that I was clinically depressed, he suggested that I set up an appointment, and it took almost 2 months for me to get in to see a therapist. at that time. And when I walked in, I was so convinced by the doctor's diagnosis that I was depressed. I made myself sadder for those 2 months that I waited. And when I walked in, those were my exact words. I'm depressed. Tell me why. And the one thing that I remember that she did was she closed her notebook that she obviously was going to take her notes, and she closed it. She put it down on the table and she said, "If I have to tell you, you don't have to be here." And that really opened my eyes. It was like, oh, I have to tell you, like you just said, what's going on in my life. And when I started spilling it out, one of the things I found as a layperson, nobody trained in psychology, that what I thought was bothering me really wasn't. And as I said it, it was like, no, forget that. And then it'd say something else. It's no, forget that. And when I went through it, I actually walked out of there that day, and I don't think she said 2 words the whole time, other than, "Will I see you again next week?"
Okay.
Because I basically had chopped up my journey, and she said, "Well, I see you in 2 weeks." And she said, "One of the suggestions, I think, is that we work on X." And it was like, "Oh, is that how this works?"
Sometimes. I mean, it depends on the philosophy. I mean, I've talked on here before, and when I've been on a guest on other podcasts from the station, and I am here to walk on somebody's journey with them, that they're not alone. I am by no means the master of their domain. I am not in control. It seems like an exchange of power, but I think too, we have all these misconceived notions about what therapy is supposed to look like, or what it's supposed to do, or that kind of thing. I definitely am not direct, like, oh, you should do this. I'll say, this is what works for me. This is like, I know that I've tried this works. I've tried this doesn't work. But as a clinician, like, you've got your stuff. You are truly the master of your universe. And I am literally just an observant person saying, here are all the avenues. Let's explore all of them. Actually, I think I use car analogies. Like, it's like buying a new car. Hey, let's try this. You're going to test drive it. What color do I like? And doing the research on it. And you're really doing the research of your life. And that is literally depression, anxiety, bipolar. Because I do trauma and human sexuality, there's I walk through the past journey, and I'm walking in the present, and then hopefully towards the the future. And that's how I do therapy, because it is, you are your master. So it's very hard. Someone come in and tell me, oh, well, tell me what's wrong with me. Well, that statement, like, I'm like, really, honey, sit down here. I'll tell you everything that's wrong with you. And I don't, you've called on this date. This is like what you've told me. And great. So looks great on paper, looks great for the insurance company, but that's not real.
So I do have permission to talk about this, so I want you to know ahead of time. But I had shared with you privately that my son is going through PTSD, and he talked to somebody originally. Actually, he talked to somebody in the clergy, because he felt that because he really doesn't have a spiritual connection, that maybe he was viewing things wrong. And I'm so grateful for this person that he spoke to, because the person said, you're entitled to your feelings. Okay. He said, it's not that they're right, it's not that they're wrong. They are your feelings, you own them. If you want to know how to work through those feelings, that's when he recommended that he find a therapist. And he told him, just like you said, okay, that person should only go on the journey with you and listen to you, and possibly show you the different forks in the road that you can explore. And then you have to decide, because it's your life, which fork you're going to take. And he did that for a couple of weeks, and he had another flashback. And his flashbacks now have caused PTSD for me, and things that I totally suppressed, because I figured, hey, I'm a big girl, I've gotten through it. And so I too have connected with a therapist. And when I called, the first thing I said was, and I knew it as soon as it came out of my mouth, my son's issues are making me depressed. And her comment was, if that's what you believe, I think you should find another therapist. And I said, can I backtrack? Because that's not what I mean. But it was the emotion. And I realized that I have people come to me with issues like this all the time. And I can't even take the journey with them. I just let them talk, because I'm not trained like you are. I don't have the right to give them that guidance. So tell me what it's like when a person like myself may have come in, and their mother, their father, their spouse has been advising them as their personal therapist.
Well, it sucks. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're coming to me. I love when people say, like, they come into my office and they're like, well, my mother says this. And I'm like, that's great. What do you think? And that's, I don't like diagnoses. It's a label. I don't like label. It's a necessity. I get it. And that part of it's play the game. We all truly walk in the world with all of these voices in our head. We're all really schizophrenic. I just want everyone to know we really are. That negative, like Nancy in your head, you got it from somewhere. The self-doubt, you got it from somewhere. The grandiose, because it doesn't always have to be negative. I have a patient whose mother thinks the sun rises and sets out of, his ass. And it's like, you're not that great, but okay. But so doesn't understand when in the world, he's got this grandiose sense of himself. And yes, he's very smart, but he's not getting 100% on the SAT. And quite frankly, it's not going to be on his gravestone. So I don't.
Yeah.
So I want to say that there's the whole spectrum, but that's not my job. My job is, so what is bringing the dysfunction? And for people for trauma, it's everything is on a spectrum, and it runs it. And so it's really hard for me to generalize it. Because I have sat and heard stories, and I've cried with my patients. I have sat there and kind of laughed with them as they through their trauma, because some of the responses are funny, quite frankly, but it's a horrible experience. How can you be laughing? And there's a lot of conflicting, depending on the age and when it happens and the circumstances, there's a lot of conflicting messages. our body's responding one way, but I don't want my head screaming another
right.
way. Dear God, like that is absolutely a terrifying experience. And, you know, to normalize it and to say, well, yeah, that would make sense. Like, and the defense mechanisms that come into play and all of these things. And then there are people that I deal with their trauma that I've never heard their story. And that's okay, because they can't get it out. And we don't need to go back there. It's how are we going to live with the knowledge of it and how we're going to proceed forward. And I always say we, because I look at it, it's a package deal. I'm on this journey with you. You're not alone. But it's hard. It is mentally taxing. But you know what? I see so many beautiful advances, and I see the beauty in, I hate to say, the human suffering. I see the beauty in coming out of it. And I really look at it as a blessing that I get to walk on those paths. You know, when you shared with me, and that was the first time I was like, do you even have permission? Like, your son does not need, and that was a total like therapist. It was like, it was a total therapist move.
Yep.
I mean, it was like very much of like, he's been betrayed enough. Like, please, like, not have his mother betray him. Like you are an open book, but you're like, and I've had to even do that with my own kids. Like, they like, you know, I mentioned you guys in the podcast. Does that bother you? And they're like, no. They're like, you really have no life, Mom. We know where your life.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but if I said, well, if there's anything that you don't want me to talk about, I won't do that. I'm not going to betray that, because that's the mother-child relationship.
Right.
And so I was very much like, ooh, Kiki, like, no, like, because I don't want him to hurt.
Right. And that's why what was interesting about when this all came about, and I'm hoping other parents hear this as well, or spouses, he kept asking me to help him. And I said, the only way that I know how to help you is to reach out to people who are therapists. I know that they can't provide you and me therapy if we have a friendship or a relationship, but I can reach out to them as a friend and sort of let them know what my pain is. And he said, please do it. I need to get this out. Now, the other thing he asked me to do this past weekend was to write a letter to the school that he went to. And he made a list of all the things that he feels were done wrong and got him to this point. And I haven't written it yet because I want to reconfirm with him. And when I write it and before I send it, he's going to read it and he's going to live with it for a day or two before it gets sent. I understand that's part of his closure. But I also told him I wanted him to talk to his therapist about it because I agree that we don't want to betray the trust in the people that we love and love us. So, and I love that you brought, that you like jumped at me like that.
I did. Yeah. I was like, what are you doing?
and I even showed him your note and he goes, do I need to call her? And I said, no, you're fine. You're fine. But as a parent and as a friend, we always want to help. We always think that maybe that hug is going to help, or to share our story is going to help. But in some cases, sharing our story makes it worse.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's, it's not closure for him because with trauma like this, you don't get closure. You get on a path of healing.
Okay.
Because closure means it's been done and it's never coming up again. And that's a load of crap. and you can move forward and you can begin your healing journey and your healing process. But that bag, I hate to say it, I tell you all the time, I have Louis Vuitton baggage.
Yeah.
Like I got a whole case of vintage Louis Vuitton baggage. But that it comes with me because there are times that I have to unpack it and then it goes right back in there. And that's how my healing journey started. And it works for me. And then sometimes it's overpacked and overstuffed and like comes out, and then I have to, reorganize it. But that's a journey. And I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, there are times when we share and it's like, why are you sharing this with me? Or are you being overbearing? My last week with our family friend dying and very suddenly, and someone said, you look like you're a control freak. And I was like, I'm not a control freak. I'm jumping in because I'm helping, because nobody else is doing it. And it's the only way to sit with my own grief is to do something, because we know I can't sit still. But the other piece to it was like, I want to be there for my girlfriend, who is like a sister to me. Her husband, who's like an uncle to me and my children. And I hold those relationships very close. But along the way, I was always like, hey, do you want me to handle this? Hey, have you thought about this? Hey, do you think I'm being overbearing? Like I like flat out, like along the way through this whole process was like, what do you want? Like, because what you want, I'll have it executed. It's not about me. It's not about anything. And we all get secondary gains from this, but this is truly about, I need my friend to grieve, because this is where it comes about me. Because when I've had all these deaths and I've had all these funerals, I always had to take care of everybody else. And I know what it's like to have a delayed grieving process.
Sure.
And quite frankly, it sucks. And no one should have to go through that. She should have been able to start the grieving process burying her mother. And I was like, and I was not her therapist. I was her friend and my family. And I was literally present in there for her. Now, then I had the guilt of like, which I don't do guilt, but I was like talking to my kids. I'm like, do you feel like you guys have been slighted this week? Do you feel? And they're like, no, Auntie, like, and like, she needed you, Mom. Like, that's just what you do. Like, we're okay. I'm like, well, do you think I don't spend enough time with you? And they're just like, you're fine. But I needed that reassurance, because the second that my kid would have said, you know what, Mom, like, we need you, done. Like, I love you, but they come first. And so, we talk about being like a therapist and like being a friend and like all of these roles. I'm always a therapist. I've had 10 years of training in this. And that was the end of that journey was 12 years ago. So it's integrated into who I am. And I think on the show, we've always talked about the fact of I'm genuine. I am who I am through and through. And and I'm nuts. We all already know that. But, that's so when like you're going through something or a family member is going through something, I know the clinical like check, but that's not what's going through my head, because it's not going through my head a lot of the times when I'm in therapy either. It is very much of like, you are in pain. There's like, I get it from a clinical viewpoint. I get it from an emotional viewpoint. I get it from a human viewpoint, because quite frankly, I really am human. But, it's all integrated into one, but really it's about being in the present moment. Like, give me a therapist who hasn't experienced some kind of pain or, or some kind of crap in their lives. And I'll be like, there's only so much you can do. I don't have to have every single experience I've had with my patients.
Right.
It helps. But there's something in my life that I can get from point A to point B.
Well, the reason, I really wanted to talk about this is that I've had some people say, we provide them with shows, and our shows are always about this positive messaging. But to get to that positive message, many times we have to go through the bullshit before we can see the sunrise again. Um, and they've wondered, why I've taken this path. And I said, I'm going to be honest with everybody that it's about my healing journey. I could do podcasts about anything, but I don't want to, because I find that when I talk about where I've walked or where I plan to walk, I get that guidance from other people. And sometimes the guidance is not appropriate. And I can choose to realize that's not the appropriate thing to do. And there are other times it's like, boy, I didn't even think about that. And especially on this show, and I want our listeners to understand this, I love when you, and I won't say correct me, but look at me straight in the eye and say, really? And it's like, what did I say? And I think if we were more honest with each other, life would be so much easier, because I don't have to get mad at you for giving me that look. Okay. It's like, all right, let me figure out what this is all about. But most of us get our backs up when we hear comments like that. And that can throw us into a sad moment. And some of us are more melodramatic, and we take that sad moment and we grieve upon it and, dig deep.
I think part of the thing, okay, so we'll talk about your journey. See, it's all really about you.
Oh, it's all about me.
It is always about you.
Yeah.
But look at when we first started, because when this is not, this particular podcast really came from ones that we did almost 5 years ago.
Right.
And it was really about, you were searching for that, my interpretation, the connection of the death of your mother.
Yep.
And it put you in a frenzy, and you were looking for answers, and you were looking for answers in other families and other dynamics. And I think it was called family dynamics.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
I mean, but you were looking for answers that were already inside, and you were grieving, and you were trying to figure out your place in life.
Right.
And it was really cool. I got to go on that journey with you, and I got to talk about my crazy family. So it was like fantastic. And I love my crazy family. There's a reason why, like, I always joke about this, about we're the Midland shit show. We really are. And we make this is us. This truly is us. And through pain and sorrow and happiness, really thick and thin, we're there. And that's our family tapestry. And I don't know how else to other be. I just figure, you know what? I'm going to be 45 in November. And life is too short. And I don't have time for bullshit. I don't, and there are times when I've been like, really, Karen, did you just really say that? But it's out of love. It's never out of hatred, and it's never out of, there are very few things that offend me. And I am very okay with people having a difference of opinion that are not mine. You're entitled to them. We all have assholes, so we all shit. So that's, I don't, it doesn't matter. And I think that attitude of like, it's not attacking, your opinion doesn't attack my opinion, nor does it make it less and whatnot. I'm human. We talk about that. Like, I'm a therapist, I'm a person. I have an array of emotions. I get happy, I get sad, I get mad as hell, I break shit, I drive fast. Like, I have all these lovely coping mechanisms that work for me. I chain smoke, and then there are times that I don't smoke at all. Like, it's what I do, and it's who I am.
Sure.
And what you see is what you get. And I've never not known how to not be that way. And so that's what people either love me or hate me. And you know what? It's okay, because their opinion of me is really none of my business. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to look in the mirror. I'm the one who has to live with myself. So when you said things, I was just like, sometimes you say things and I was like, okay, that's coming from, I can almost like picture it because I do know you so well. Like, okay, that's wounded Karen.
Yep.
Okay, that's mommy Karen.
Yep.
Okay, that's a pissed off Karen. That's like, I can pinpoint these things. So it's like, she's saying this and I don't think she's really thinking of what she's saying, but I can't be like, well, I mean, I probably could be like, hey, Karen.
And you could,
Karen.
Yeah. And you could, and that from you, that would not offend me. From some other people, it might. Okay. And I guess it's when you accept somebody for who they are and how they interact with you, you can take more shit than you can from somebody who just out of the blue makes you feel like you're that big.
Right.
And that was one of the things, the first time I met you, sitting around your mother and father's dining room table with your kids jumping all over the place. And you and your sister dialoguing at one point, loving, wonderful sisters. And the next minute it's like, are they going to kill each other? But I fell in love with the person who you are because I saw the honesty. And it's like, okay, one of these days you're going to call me out on something and I'm just going to have to think about it. And if I really feel it and you're right, hey, you're right. And if I don't agree with you, well, okay, I don't have to agree with you. But I don't have to get mad at you either.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. It's through the pandemic, it's like I have friends on all political spectrums. And I am truly an independent, even though I'm a liberal, but I am truly, truly an independent because I'm fiscally conservative. And socially, I'm just out there. The Democratic Party doesn't even want me. I'm socially out there, which is fine. I don't care. Because I really believe like the voice of people. I couldn't do my job if I didn't. And I believe, like, I can sit and listen to your opinions. I don't like it when, I have facts behind me. Well, okay, then I tell you something. Everyone's a bunch of fucking liars. Oops, that was the F word. Sorry.
It's okay.
We've now gone from PG-13 to rated R. Okay. No, I don't, it's mind-boggling to me that knowing about statistics, you can put any statistic in there to show anything. And at the end of the day, we talk about that constantly on a daily basis. It's my moral obligation. My moral obligation is to myself and what I believe is to the people and to my community. And so if I want to donate everything out of my house because I feel that's necessary, who are you to tell me I'm wrong?
Right.
I'm not hurting you. Like, I'm legit not hurting you. And if someone is taking advantage of me, you know what? Okay. My philosophy, and it's a very bad philosophy, but you know what? If someone wants, they have to live with themselves. So if they know that they're stealing money from me, at the end of the day, one, I believe in karma, so it will come back to you. But two, of like, this whole notion of like, well, they needed it more than me. And that literally is my thing. So I provided a service, great. They took advantage, great. So we just don't trust enough that like people like this, but you know what? It's a vicious circle in my head. And I'll be like, well, how do I really know? Are they really going to go hungry? Do they not have the resource? I can talk it all to death. And I'm so cynical and so not at the same time. I'm a walking paradox. So really, because I can like, oh, screw everybody. And then like, oh, but we all need to love each other. you know, I'm not gumdrops and rainbows and, gummy bears. Although it would be great. I love the Grateful Dead. I like Jerry Bears and like psychedelics. Like we should all smoke weed and like, be happy and sing Kumbaya. Like that's a side of my personality. And then there's the other side who's like, they're all out to get us. Like I'm paranoid. Like everyone's out to screw everybody. Everyone's out for themselves. And then you want to know why you're sad? I could tell you why you're sad. Turn on the news. And then like, let's utilize, the dying babies that we're seeing on TV. So let's give money to them. Like that's manipulation. And I know it's manipulation, but yet I want to save all the puppies. I mean, like I need a farm to not have farms just to house all the shelter puppies so they can live free and like, I don't know, do dog things or people or whatever. I mean, it's really bad, but that's me. But through the pandemic, it has really made me open my eyes up to like where I thought people were more flexible. And in my opinion, and what I am seeing is that they've become very inflexible and intolerable, especially over the mask, no mask. COVID became very political and not a human, crisis, a world crisis, and then became a conspiracy theory, and then it became this, and it became that. And I was like, okay, well, people are just dying, and there's this thing out there. Like, can we just deal with the thing? Like, and everything else. And it's created, do I feel better about the vaccine's out? No, I can tell you, I don't feel, the sigh of relief. Oh, everything's opened up. No, I'm like, I've seen some of the things people have posted on Facebook. I'm sitting here going like, well, I know what you think. You have shared it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. But me being me and loving and accepting of who they are, it's absolutely okay. But then I'm like, I like my four walls. I like my Zoom. But then I like human contact too. So it becomes all, craziness. Like, what am I going to be paranoid about today? like I'm waiting for some like new virus. No. Like I should say, like, there was like the killer hornets and like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing I got to be, worried about besides, puberty, ballet, like, well, like, just give me a list, you know?
And don't you think that the media, okay, and we've created the media, okay? Yeah. So we can complain about the media, but we've created it. And I'm not talking just about being on a podcast, but we've asked the media to, make movies the way they make movies and to write songs and to do these things that we get all shocked out about and say, I have to look young. I'm not allowed to have a wrinkle, or, my husband and I are having sex wrong because I saw that movie and that movie shows me how to do it the right way. And I hear this from so many people that commercials in movies and certain things have told them you're doing things wrong. And it's like, you're only doing something wrong if you're hurting someone else. Okay.
Right. So change the channel.
Exactly.
I mean, the only thing about how you're doing sex wrong is if it doesn't feel good and that's not your fetish. Yeah. Like if that's your fetish, then hey, God bless. But you know what? They got books. Kama Sutra. It's been around for, centuries. If you feel you're doing sex wrong and you're going off porn, you know what? Like they have actual instructional videos. You don't think you're doing a blowjob right? How the art form of doing a blowjob, they have thousands of these videos. Go pick one up. Oh, that doesn't work for you? Okay, well, try this,
Well, Google is
an Urban Dictionary. Google it. Yeah. Oh my God, Google it. If you don't want to spend the money, Google it. They've got free websites on all these things. Like, hey, God bless. Just because the media says something, but just because the media says something doesn't one make it true. So we could be completely incorrect or completely full of shit as of right now. So you've got that. You have the fact of like, we've become all like, remember Real World?
Yes.
When MTV, so when MTV actually had music videos, but then there was the Real World. Okay, great. That was fantastic. Well, we've created that. We're such voyeurs and we love drama. And so we love watching all of these things. I mean, my God, the Kardashians have $1 billion industry for nothing.
Yes.
For, you know what? For absolutely just being who they are. That's insane. But yet we tune in every week. And I did. I am not in the closet any longer. I have walked out. I watched the Kardashians because I was trying to figure out for season upon season of what is exactly like so captivating. Well, here you go. You got a 20-year-old who's pregnant, which great, 16 and pregnant. They have that on MTV 1, 2, and 3. Like, when did MTV need 3 channels for reality TV? But okay. Just bring back music. They're like, let's bring back real music. Oh, Kim Kardashian's on her 3rd marriage. We root for people to fail. And then when we do, we get all excited over it. Or we get all like, someone's to blame, or someone's to this, or someone's to that. You know what? I've been married twice. I've had horrible failed relationships. I've had amazing relationships. I've been a shitty daughter and I've been a fantastic daughter. I've been a shitty sister and I've been an amazing sister. You want to hear no one's going like, oh, let's tune into Alicia and see how fantastic her life is.
I love it.
You know what? Fuck that. It doesn't happen. But oh, look at that. Look, oh, another failed one. Oh, look at that. Oh, you know what? Alicia got drunk. Yeah, Alicia got drunk. And you know what? I'm 44 years old and I can get drunk if I want to. As long as I'm in the vicinity of my 4 walls and I'm not driving or anything else, it's fine. You know what? And that's life. But we get so hyped up. We get so hyped up. Dude, I love the Royals. Okay, let me just tell you, I should be English. Okay, I have no business being a United States citizen. England is my home country. Okay, all I want to do is have lunch with the Queen. I do tea. I just want to sit in the palace and say, Liz, I got to tell you, you're a rock star. You ran a country at 25. And you are daddy's girl, and look at like this amazing and not amazing life that you have created. And like, and how did you do it? Like, I just like, and I want to know like what fabrics, like, because you wear colors that quite frankly nobody should wear, but you pull it off. Like, how do you come up with that? What goes through your head every day? Like, seriously, these are the things I go through. And you know, and I sat there watching Oprah because you know, Harry, you know, and Meghan, and I'm not a Meghan Markle fan. Actually, I didn't even know who she was. They're like, oh, she was on Suits. I'm like, I what is that? Like, yeah. I really didn't know. I'm like, I'm sorry, is that between Teletubbies and where have I been? You know, probably watching the Kardashians and the Real Housewives of Burn and Turn. I don't know. But you know, and I'm sitting there watching this, and I was like, there was a part of me that was sad for Harry because of the loss of his family, and he chose his wife. But then how much of that was so dramatic? And then here is like, yes, do I air my dirty laundry in a really weird way? I like my clean stained laundry is how I air it.
Okay.
But the deep, dark down shit, we don't discuss that. I won't discuss it. It comes out here and there, but whatever. And just sit there and going to go, this is so contrived. And yet I'm sitting here watching it. And then, you know who I felt bad? And this is awful. I felt bad for Prince Philip. He's sitting here in a hospital fighting for his life, according to the media. And here's Liz, you know, the Queen, who's sitting there watching her grandson from afar talk about things and then putting it under an umbrella. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about these issues, but my God, like, but yet we were all there. Oh, we were all there and we all have opinions. Fact. He was never going to be heir to the throne, God forbid, because his brother's whole entire family would have to be wiped out for that to occur. So, okay, they didn't, shocker, in-laws didn't like a daughter-in-law and her behavior. How many people have gone through that, or their son-in-laws? This is not new. Oh yeah, hi. Hello. Oh, wait, the sister-in-law who's marrying into the family isn't liked either. Who knew? Oh, not good enough. I'm not good enough for anybody's son. and that's fantastic. And I'm okay with that. Because I can tell you, as a mother, as long as my kid is happy and she's good to, or he or whoever are good to my children, I could care less. You have to be a good person or whatever. I don't care what race, religion, that's a whole other thing. I just don't care. If you're a loving, good person and you guys work well together, I'm in. I got no opinion whatsoever. God bless. But that's me. But to watch that, and yet we are all on that. So to blame the media for something that we ourselves drive.
Well, that's what I said. We create that media. Okay.
Yeah, I guess we create it, but then I think on the other hand too of we get a secondary gain. It's either of oh, life isn't so terrible, or oh, look, really rich people, go through this whole thing, and then it's okay, but what's real, what's not real? It's the new Keeping Up with the Joneses. How tragic can we be? And then it's and that in itself is sad.
Well, don't you see that and I guess I'm going to call it suburbia just for a title, that we sometimes, when we hear that our neighbors are having a marital issue, it's oh my gosh, what's going on next door? Oh, and whose side am I going to take? It's you can take both sides. If they're both your friends, you can take both sides if you want to. And why are we rooting for that house to have problems?
To feel better about ourselves. I can tell you that. I will give you the answer to that. because why would you? I don't like people for pain and suffering. I can tell you there's 2 people on this planet that honestly, they deserve every single ounce of horrible things that happen because they're just not good people. They're just not good people. And honest, and that's the rest of people who've wronged me, not wronged me. Listen, I'm not a saint. I'm not a saint by any means. And I'm sure I have done things inadvertently to hurt people. I know I've done things purposely to hurt people. I don't like that about me. I try to make amends. I will try to right that wrong, but I don't like to see other people hurt. I don't like to see other people suffer. And it's really sad because, that's how I make my living. I make my living off of people who suffer. But hopefully they don't suffer. And we get through that bridge. And so there's the sun and the rainbows and the gumdrops and everything. But no, we are a very voyeuristic society. We want people to fail so we can feel better. That's the new improved Keeping Up with the Joneses, I guess. It's something I just don't want to play with. I won't play.
Well, and I don't play with that. If I don't like something, I walk away from it. Sometimes I realize after I've walked away that maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. And then, I find my way back to it. What felt good at one time, may not feel good in the future. And one of the things that I've learned, and I'm sure, your parents probably have learned the same thing. Some of the things that we grew up accepting in the 50s and 60s and 70s, the way many men were taught to speak and taught to react. We grew up with it. That was the norm. And right. now we're being told, no, that's a bad thing. Well, it probably isn't a great thing, but, we're coming from different angles. And I think that's what people have to understand is that we all have to make those choices ourselves. What is good? What is bad? And try not to, hurt the next person. And I know you made a comment there that there may have been times that, you hurt somebody or said something, but I don't think that is truly who you are because I could tell as soon as you said it, it was like, that look on your face. I'm so sorry. Um, and I think most of us feel that way when we wrong somebody. So
otherwise we got a whole bunch of psychopaths.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And then, okay, well, great. At least I have job stability for a while. The problem is psychopaths never come into therapy willingly. So, no, but, and I appreciate you saying that. It's, it's life. And we started with depression and we started with all of these things. And it's like, we're not robots. And we don't have to be programmed. And yes, how you brought up was the norm back then. And you know what? It's not the norm now, but certain stuff has created intergenerational trauma and you can stop it. Like there, yes, there is shit that my parents have done that was probably not correct. And okay, fine. I don't hold that against them any longer. I used to. I don't hold it against them. I just, as a mother, choose to do things differently because I know what it's feeling like as a kid, and I don't want my kids to feel that way. But it doesn't mean that they were wrong. Well, there's a couple situations that were handled that were wrong. They were. I mean, it is in anyone's playbook, yeah. Not right. And I know that, and that I would never want my kid to feel that way. But I mean, do I have great parents? Sure. Do I have shitty parents? Sure. I mean, pick a day. There's stuff that comes out of my dad's mouth that I like, are you kidding? Like, Dad, you can't say that. And he's like, yes, I can. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, he can, but it doesn't make it right. Or my mom, and I'm just sitting here like, what the hell? Like, no. But you know what? At the end of the day, when it comes to me with my kids, I have that choice to either use their toolbox, and which I have pulled shit out of their toolbox and it doesn't feel good. And then I end up like crying on the floor with them. So I try not to do that. And then, or my other toolbox. And then there are other days where they're just tools all over the place because I have no idea what to do. And the 50 million books that I have read and classes I've taken are really not helpful.
So before we close this out, I have a question. There was a picture on your Facebook page today of your father and your daughter with these very strange looking faces. They were pouting. Can you tell us why they were pouting?
It's the Midland pout.
Oh, okay.
And it destroys my soul.
Oh.
And so my dad was making faces. I was sitting at their table and I was talking with my mom and dad, and my dad just pouted, and I was like, oh my God, shit, that's my face. That's Bailey's face. And so I said, Bailey, come down here for a second. And she goes, what? And I go, do the pouty face. And so her and my dad were doing the pouty face. And it's to me, it's like the same face. It's the Midland pout. And it's just like,
okay. Well,
it destroys my soul.
I just wanted to make sure that they were both okay. You didn't take away their dessert or anything, right?
I did not know. I should take away to their dessert, but no. There was none of that. No, we were just screwing around, and it was just cute. It was a cute little like, oh, that's usually the but I want something face, which never worked when I did for my dad, but it destroys me when but Mom, and I do it. I have the same pouty face, and it gets me nowhere, but it gets her everything.
Yeah. When I pout, my family walks in opposite directions. So it's not worth, making more wrinkles by pouting. So
it's making me look, I have bigger lips. Like I need help in that department, but like,
well, I want to thank you again for another lively podcast. And we plan on being back together next month in July. Um, uh, I don't know if you have vacation plans or whatever, but we'll work around them. I am flexible, and Auntie Kiki here does not get bent out of shape when things change. Only when my husband and my son change things on me. But for the rest of you, it's okay. Have a great day. Love you.
Thanks, you too. Love you. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.